If you've ever noticed that you don't panic easily, that you don't overshare your problems, that you'd rather figure things out on your own before asking for help, there's a reason for that. For many born between 1965 and 1980, independence wasn't a personality choice, it was the environment. And the environment shapes the nervous system more than people realize. Gen X grew up in a world without constant supervision. After school often meant an empty house, no quick texts to parents, no GPS tracking, no instant reassurance. You came home, you handled it. That small, repeated experience, being alone and being responsible, wires something deep. Behavior, you solve problems quietly. Hidden meaning, you learned early that help wasn't always available. Deeper pattern, self-reliance became emotional safety. Identity impact, I'll handle it, became part of who you are. It doesn't look dramatic, but it builds a certain psychological backbone. When no one is immediately coming to rescue you, your brain adapts. It stops expecting rescue. You might also notice something else. You're skeptical. You don't immediately believe hype. You don't trust big promises. You don't jump into trends just because everyone else is. That didn't come from nowhere. Gen X grew up during economic shifts, political tension, rising divorce rates, and corporate layoffs. Institutions didn't always feel stable. Authority didn't always feel trustworthy. Behavior, questioning narratives. Hidden meaning, you saw systems fail. Deeper pattern, trust must be earned, not assumed. Identity impact, you become grounded, sometimes guarded. It's not cynicism for the sake of it, it's pattern recognition. When you grow up watching instability, your brain learns to scan for cracks before it commits. And then there's privacy. Many Gen X adults don't feel the need to broadcast everything. You don't post every milestone. You don't publicly process every emotion. Some might call that emotionally closed off, but it's not that simple. Behavior, keeping personal matters personal. Hidden meaning, vulnerability was not always modeled safely. Deeper pattern, emotional control equals stability. Identity impact, you become measured, contained. It's not that feelings aren't there, it's that they were handled internally. Because growing up, emotional expression wasn't always encouraged, so emotional regulation became a private skill. And here's where it gets interesting. A lot of people assume Gen X is tough because they're strong, but the real reason isn't strength in the way we usually define it, it's an adaptation. When you're left to navigate things alone, socially, emotionally, practically, your nervous system stops expecting constant validation. You learn to self-soothe, you learn to self-direct, you learn to sit with discomfort longer than most. That's not about confidence, it's about control. Control over reactions, control over exposure, control over dependence. And control feels safer than uncertainty. There's also the humor. If you've noticed a certain dry sarcasm, dark wit, or quiet irony in Gen X culture, that's not random either. Humor becomes a release valve. Behavior, laughing at serious situations. Hidden meaning, stress needs somewhere to go. Deeper pattern, humor diffuses vulnerability. Identity impact, you appear unfazed even when you're carrying weight. It's a socially acceptable way to express tension without fully exposing it, a shield that doesn't look like one. Now consider adaptability. Gen X experienced both analog and digital life. You remember life before the internet, but you adapted to it. You remember payphones and cassette tapes, but you navigated smartphones and social media. Behavior, moving between old school and modern systems with relative ease. Hidden meaning, you learned flexibility through transition. Identity formed during cultural shift. Identity impact, you're comfortable in in-between spaces. You don't fully belong to the past. You don't fully belong to the hyper-digital present. You understand both. That creates a certain psychological range, a quiet versatility. But there's another layer that doesn't get talked about much. Many Gen X adults feel responsibility without announcing it. Raising children, supporting parents, managing careers, handling instability, and often doing it without dramatic displays of stress. Behavior,
carrying weight silently. Hidden meaning, you learned early not to rely on external rescue. Deeper pattern, responsibility equals identity. Identity impact, you feel strongest when you're dependable. Sometimes that strength becomes isolation, because when you've always been the one who handles it, it's hard to imagine being handled. And that's the subtle pattern. Gen X wasn't shaped by constant affirmation, it was shaped by autonomy. Autonomy builds competence, but it can also build emotional self-containment. That doesn't mean detached, it doesn't mean cold, it means regulated, it means practiced, it means your nervous system grew up expecting to manage itself. So when people say Gen X is independent, private, skeptical, adaptable, they're describing survival patterns that became personality traits. It was never random, it was a repeated experience, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Independence wasn't just how you behaved, it was how you were shaped. If this explains something you've always felt but never named, there's more to uncover. Understanding the pattern doesn't change the past, but it changes how clearly you see yourself.